Dove Audio presents The Exorcist by William Peter Blatty, read by the author.
The Beginning. Chapter 1. Like the brief doomed flare of exploding suns that registers dimly on blind men's eyes, the beginning of the horror passed almost unnoticed, and the shriek of what followed in fact was forgotten, and perhaps not connected to the horror at all. It was difficult to judge. The house was a rental, brooding, tight, a brick colonial gripped by ivy in the Georgetown section of Washington, D.C. Across the street was a fringe of campus belonging to Georgetown University. To the rear, a sheer embankment plummeting steep to busy M Street and, beyond, the muddy Potomac. Early on the morning of April 1st, the house was quiet. Chris McNeil was propped in bed, going over her lines for the next day's filming. Reagan, her daughter, was sleeping down the hall, and asleep downstairs in a room off the pantry were the middle-aged housekeepers, Willie and Carl. At approximately 12:25 a.m., Chris glanced from her script with a frown of puzzlement. She heard rapping sounds. They were odd, muffled, profound, rhythmically clustered. Alien code tapped out by a dead man. Funny, she thought. She listened for a moment, then dismissed it. But as the rappings persisted, she couldn't concentrate. She slapped down the script on the bed. Jesus, that bugs me. She got up to investigate. She went out to the hallway and looked around. It seemed to be coming from Reagan's bedroom. What is she doing, she thought. She padded down the hall and the rappings grew subtly louder, much faster, and as she pushed on the door and stepped into the room, they abruptly ceased. What the heck's going on? Her pretty 11-year-old was asleep, cuddled tight to a large stuffed round-eyed panda, Pookie, faded from years of smothering, years of smacking, warm, wet kisses. Chris moved softly to her bedside and leaned over for a whisper. Rags? You awake? Regular breathing. Heavy. Deep. Chris shifted her glance around the room. Dim light from the hall fell pale and splintered on Reagan's paintings, on Reagan's sculptures, on more stuffed animals. Okay, thought Chris. Come on, Rags. Old mother's ass is dragging. Say it. April Fool. And yet Chris knew it wasn't like her. The child had a shy and very diffident nature. And who was the trickster? A somnolent mind imposing order on the rattlings of heating pipes or plumbing? Once in the mountains of Bhutan, she had stared for hours at a Buddhist monk who was squatting on the ground in meditation. Finally, she thought, she had seen him levitate. Perhaps. Recounting the story to someone, she invariably added, perhaps. And perhaps her mind, that untiring raconteur of illusion, had embellished the rappings. Bullshit, she thought. I heard it. Abruptly, she flicked a quick glance to the ceiling. There. Faint scratchings. Jesus, rats in the attic. Rats! She sighed. Yeah, that's it, she thought. Big tails, thump thump. She felt oddly relieved, and then noticed the cold. The room. It was icy. She padded to the window, checked it. Closed. She touched the radiator. Hot. Oh, really, she thought. Puzzled, she moved to the bedside and touched her hand to Reagan's cheek. It was smooth as thought and lightly perspiring. Oh, God, I must be sick. She looked at her daughter, at the turned-up nose and freckled face, and on a quick, warm impulse, leaned over the bed and kissed her cheek. I sure do love you, she whispered, then returned to her room and her bed and her script.